Hello everyone. Once, while a monk was speaking to a gathering of believers, a young man asked him, "Master, how should I best use my day so that God will be pleased with me?" "There is only one possible answer. Live a life of love," replied the monk. Minutes later, another man asked the monk the same question. "How should I best use my day so that God will be pleased with me?" "There is only one possible answer. Live a life of joy," said the monk. The first man was taken aback and told the monk, "But, Master, the advice you gave me was different." "Not at all," said the monk. "It is exactly the same." Friends, love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your souls, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Whoever loves father or mother or son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who does the will of my Father in heaven is my brother and sister and mother. Friends, these exhortations of Jesus are worded slightly differently, but the message is essentially the same. Today's gospel is a part of Jesus' mission discourse to his apostles as he sent them out on their own to preach the good news. He called the 12 men and gave them the authority and power to preach and work miracles, as well as gave them travel instructions, warnings about persecutions, and at the same time words of encouragement. You may remember last week we heard Jesus encouraging the apostles to openly proclaim the gospel without fear of anyone who might be able to hurt their bodies but not their souls. Rather, fear the one, referring to God, who has the power to inflict destruction upon both their bodies and souls. At the same time, he reassured them that they are more valuable in the eyes of God than other creatures on earth, particularly referring to sparrows, which were so common and inexpensive at the time of Jesus. Friends, in today's gospel we read Jesus placing further heavy demands upon the apostles. First, he demanded total and unconditional loyalty from the apostles. He said to them, "Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me." Friends, these words are very authoritative. It is difficult to imagine that Jesus, who had taught the apostles to love even their enemies, warned them that if they loved their mothers or fathers or children more than him, they would not be worthy of him. In fact, in Luke's gospel, the language is even stronger. Jesus said, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, and even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple." In other words, the apostles' love for Jesus had to take priority even over their love for their parents and children. They had to choose between the love of Christ and the love of family. Friends, the suffering and martyrdom of the apostles testified to the sincerity of their faith in Jesus and their love for God more than for their family. Secondly, Jesus demanded self-denial and self-renunciation. He told them, "Whoever does not take up his cross and come after me is not worthy of me." Friends, many people interpret cross as a kind of burden which they must carry in their lives. Referring to a strained relationship or a physical illness or the taking care of a disabled person in the family, they might say, "That is the cross I have to bear." But this is not what Jesus meant when he said, "Take up your cross and follow me." When Jesus carried his cross to Calvary to be crucified, no one thought of the cross as a symbol of a burden to carry. At Jesus' time, the cross meant only one thing: death in the most painful, cruel, and most humiliating way. Friends, today we Christians acknowledge the cross as a symbol of atonement, forgiveness, grace, and love. But in Jesus' day, the cross represented nothing but a tortuous death. So, take up one's cross meant carrying one's own execution device while facing ridicule and humiliation on the way to death. So, by taking up the cross and following Jesus meant the apostles were to willingly, consistently and wholeheartedly accept humiliation, mistreatment, persecution, suffering and hardships with complete acceptance, submission, serenity and without excuse or complaint, but joyfully follow Jesus. If they did not love Jesus more than they loved their family and take up their cross and follow Him, Jesus said they were not worthy of Him. Friends, what does not worthy of Him mean? Not worthy of Him means, as Luke explains, not worthy to be called Jesus' disciples. That is to say, if the apostles had more love for their family than they had for Jesus, and if they are unwilling to accept suffering and hardships, they were not qualified to be the followers of Jesus. They were not worthy of God's favor or the reward Jesus intended for His disciples. Thirdly, Jesus demanded their life. He said, "Whoever finds his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will find it." Friends, what does "he who finds his life will lose it" mean? In worldly terms, finding one's life means a person is in quest of one's own pleasures and passions during their earthly life. If a person knows what pleases self, he then goes after it. Slowly, over time, such a person becomes